Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sheep Get Sheared Podcast, home of people, politics, and popular culture. I'm your host, Austin Creed. I want to welcome you into the show. So, I want to go off on a little bit different tangent today. I want to discuss a period of history. I love history, personally. So, I want to discuss something that might seem totally outside of what's important and what is happening in the modern political, socioeconomic state, but I want to tell you, I believe the opposite to be true. So today we're talking about the history of the Civil War and the secrets of the Civil War. Now, the Civil War, for those of you who don't know, was one of the most pivotal moments in not just American history, but in world history. Because I doubt that you knew this. Did you know, at the time of the American Civil War, America was the only, I repeat, the only democracy, the only democratic state in the world, the only somewhat democratic system. 100 years after the end of the Civil War, about half of the world was at least somewhat democratic in how they ran their government. During the Civil War, when the South seceded from the Union, the kings and queens of Europe especially rooted for the South because they knew their citizenry was starting to look at America and was wanting a government that was more of the people. But the royal families of Europe wanted the South to win so that they could then prove to their subjects that they were too stupid to lead their own government and required them to do so. They required the guidance of royalty, the divine right of kings, which was created by James I of England, is a very referred to doctrine in which the royalty of Europe, especially of England at the time, believed that the kings and queens of Europe were put there by God. Therefore, because they had God's authority to rule, they could not be challenged. They could not be deemed unfit, because then that would be questioning God as well as the crown. See how that kind of works and how messy that can get? Well, my friends, the Civil War, in a lot of ways, really shaped what we're seeing today. Because for those of you who are not aware, and look, I didn't learn this. I'm not saying this to you because you're stupid. I'm saying this because I didn't know this. I've been learning more about this recently, especially. Did you know that after the Civil War was over, the first African Americans to be elected to office, whether it be the Senate, the House, or state legislature or local government, they ran as Republicans. Oh yes, they ran as Republicans because Abe Lincoln was a Republican. And it was the radical Republicans, so-called at that time, that what people call the far right today, the radical Republicans were the ones who, at the beginning of the Civil War, demanded that Lincoln free the slaves immediately. Oh yeah, you didn't learn about that. And it was the Democrat South who seceded from the Union who wanted to keep their slaves. And after the war was over, during Reconstruction, were the ones who founded the KKK because they were the ones who were old leaders of the Confederate government, and they founded the Ku Klux Klan. They were Democrat leaders, former Democrats turned Confederates. But you don't know that. You think that it's the Democrats who was the North and the Republicans who were the South. No. Just because the demographics have slightly shifted over time, I'm here to tell you it has not always been the demographics we see today. In fact, before Ronald Reagan's election, it was, if you look at the elections of American history, you'll see the blue and the red, and notice that they've swapped today versus back in the day. That was actually an accident. I believe it was one of the anchors on CBS at the time who flipped the colors on accident when they started switching to color. And so that's why back in the day, the Republicans were blue and the Democrats were red. But now, today, you associate the color blue with them and red with Repub. But it's not always been the case. People want to tell me that the parties flipped and that it was the Democrats in the South are now the Republicans and the Republicans are the racists. No, my friends, that's false. No, 100% false. In fact, it was the Republicans who were the ones who were pushing for rights for African Americans, not the Democrats. It was the Democrats, largely in the South at the time, who were the ones pushing for the African Americans to not vote and finding every reason under the sun to prevent them from voting, to prevent them from exercising their constitutional rights via the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. But you wouldn't know that because when you look at history, you're told that you're given the revisionist version of history. Look, Lincoln was not a saint. Was he a good president? Yes, I think he was. Was he a great person all the time? No. In fact, Lincoln jailed a lot of political enemies. He declared martial law. He threw journalists in jail. He cut telegraph lines to prevent dissent from fomenting in the North. He basically became a dictator. He had Congress suspend habeas corpus. He declared martial law. Consolidated a lot of power in the executive branch. Now, I'm not saying that he was a bad president. What I'm telling you is this. There are many things he did that if you actually learned about them, you'd say, wait a second, he did what? Oh yeah, he threw journalists in jail, political enemies in jail. He did all those things. Now, you could argue that they were at war, so it's different. I mean, make any justification you want. I'm just telling you, this is the facts of the matter. This is what happened. But the biggest lie that you've been told is that it was the Republicans who hated the blacks, and then it was the Democrats who wanted to liberate the blacks. This is false. Now, I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent. But what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and I'm sick and tired of people lying about this. I'm sick and tired of the BS and the lies. Here, I gotta drink some of my coffee. My friends, look. For those of you who are also unaware about this, also more untold secret, after Lincoln was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth, John Wilkes Booth fled, and it was Andrew Johnson and the Republicans who did not put the South under pressure because they hated blacks. They did it because they hated the South. They wanted to punish the South for leaving. They did not hate African Americans. In fact, the opposite was true. They did not allow the South back into the country. They were under martial law and under Congress's direct jurisdiction. They were denied their statehood and made territories until the southern states ratified the 13th and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution, Bill of Rights. But you don't know that. They did not allow them to be considered states again and have representation in Congress until they ratified freeing the slaves legally and guaranteeing them constitutional rights and the constitutional rights of their children. But you didn't know that, probably because you weren't taught it in school. You were just taught that Trump and the Republicans are evil, the Democrats want freedom for everybody, when in fact the opposite is true. Now, I understand to an extent the parties mix and they're very much the same on a lot of levels. This is true. Here's the reality check, though. The Republican Party has been the party of freedom. The Democrat Party has been the party of elitism, gangsterism, and oligarchy. But you wouldn't know that because they say the opposite. You think because they say they're for you, they're not. Versus the Republicans who more seem check pants Republican types, they don't care about the people. The opposite is true. Now, to an extent, they're all elitists. We all know this. If you pay attention, they all care about their elitist agenda. We get that. They all care about special interest money. We all get that. That is true. I just want you to know that I see very few Democrats, old school Democrats, I would say were very freedom loving. JFK, very freedom loving. He's almost right wing as compared to now. The old line Democrats are more libertarians than they are actual liberals. And the right wingers are becoming a little more almost libertarian. Sometimes they're becoming even more conservative. My friends, the Civil War was extremely important to our history. Because the demographics have shifted over time. This is true. As more states have been added to the Union since those times. But the South has always been the worst region for racism against African Americans. And now we're seeing a wave of what people would call reverse racism. I just think of it as racism. Racism doesn't matter whether it's from one race to another. What matters is there's no different definition. There's just racism. There's no reverse. There's no counter. It's just racism. There was a long time in American history where African Americans were discriminated against and alienated and kept down. In fact, even now, in a lot of ways, they still are. The problem is they actively vote for it. It was Trump who did a lot for the African American community, not Obama and not Biden. It was Biden who called an integrated school a jungle for his kids. Oh yeah, look it up. I'm not lying. Look it up. It was also Joe Biden who said that if you didn't vote for him, you weren't black. Okay. Did Trump say that? No. I mean, do you want me to keep going? I can if you want. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I am giving you a dose of reality. And if you're mad right now, yes, you listening to this show, if you're mad right now by what I'm saying, it's because you know I'm right. And you know that I'm hitting on some very uncomfortable realities that is making you squirm and is making you uncomfortable. Good. It means you learned something today. I'm happy I did my job. My friends, please do not just take the revisionist history line and do not let them brainwash you. Look at actual history documents. Look at how things have changed, the demographics, the voting blocks, the voting rights. Look at how all these things have changed. And you will see that the Democrat Party in particular has a long time wanted to change their image and rehabilitate their dying image from the Civil War days, and the Republicans have kind of almost allowed it and have kind of fallen from grace. You can even go back to the Federalists and Anti-Federalist Party, the Federalists and the Whigs. You can go all the way back there and track it if that's what you want to do. And I encourage you to do so. It'll give you perspective on what we're talking about. My friends, God bless you. God bless your families and God bless America. I gotta go. I got class here in a little bit. But I really wanted to get this video out to you because this is extremely important. And not enough people understand that the secrets of the Civil War often hold the key to the issues we're seeing today. Have a great day. I'm out of here. Peace.